Um, I'm just trying to decide if I'm comfortable even talking about that.
This one's wife. Why she has no shame. I see frequently in the comments section to various videos. I see it below the line on various newspaper sites. I see it in discussion forums where there are people perplexed by the behaviour of this one's wife, and they repeatedly ask, has she got no shame? You will have all come across an individual that you thought, well, aren't they shameless? Look at the cheek of him. Gosh, she's got some neck on her. Imagine that. Look at the brass neck behaving that way. Whether it's the relative who takes the mic uninvited at, say, somebody else's birthday and then proceeds to make it all about them, talking about themselves, or the person that comes along and wears white at somebody else's wedding. An individual who turns up uninvited to an event and swans around completely oblivious to the fact that they ought not to be there, drinking the drink and eating the food. Or it might be a person who gratuitously flirts with somebody else's partner, ignoring or simply not seeing the reactions and baleful glares from other people at their conduct. There are many examples of the way that people can behave in a shameless way. Often, those individuals are narcissists, but not always. It could be an individual that's narcissistic or potentially a normal. But what about this one's wife? She's repeatedly shameless, isn't she? Whether it was that repugnant curtsy that she demonstrated in front of Harry on her Harry and This One's Wife programme, or the repeated lies that she's told about people with regard to the suggestion that she's experienced racist behaviour, leading the Veterans March with her smirk on her face, breaking the line at the Navy SEAL event to hug somebody in the crowd when somebody else was talking, buying her own awards, claiming that a crawl in traffic was a near-catastrophic car chase, whether it was flipping burgers like a low-rent hooker or trying to grab the mic at the Kevin Costner event, or trying to take an award away from a polo player and then position herself in the middle of the photographs even though it had got sweet fuck all to do with her. You could spend quite a long time compiling a list of shameful behaviour on the part of this one's wife. There are plenty of examples. It isn't the case that there are one-offs. She does it repeatedly. This, therefore, understandably leads people to question, how is it that she has no shame for behaving the way that she does? Lots of other people all agree that she acts in a shameless way. It's not like they're particularly divided about the topic. There's much agreement that she behaves in this fashion, that she is shameless, and therefore it becomes questionable as to why does she do all of this? How is it that she has no shame? So many of you instinctively find your toes curling when you witness the latest pap walk that she's engaging in, that you announce, the cringe is strong with this one, when you witness another self-absorbed, attention-seeking set of behaviours from her. Why is it that she can't see her behaviours and has no shame? Simply, it's because of her narcissism. If she knew that what she was doing would make her feel shameful, then she wouldn't do it. And remember, what is necessary for her? She needs to control people around her. She needs to get fuel from them by prompting a reaction. She needs to gain those character traits and residual benefits. in order to compel her to do that, her narcissism has lots of different ways to motivate her. Exhibiting a sense of entitlement, having no accountability for her behaviour, having no sense of guilt, no conscience, acting without emotional empathy, being grandiose, being manipulative, and of course, she can't have any shame. For if she experienced shame, she wouldn't do these things and therefore wouldn't get to the prime aims. Her narcissism simply tells her that she's allowed to do these things. Her radar has a section missing, if you will, with regard to that's not really a good look. Some narcissists are more evolved, and it's not shame-based, but rather their facades are far more effective, so that they will not engage in such cringe-inducing behaviour, because the narcissism has learned that's not a good look. It invites criticism, which is a threat to control. With this one's wife as a mid-range narcissist, she doesn't have that level of evolved narcissism that picks out that for her. Instead, it just simply omits the ability to see that what she's doing is, quite frankly, cringe-inducing and embarrassing. It blinds her to it because it tells her she's allowed to do this. She is, after all, the amazing this one's wife. She believes that she, in effect, is the main character, that phrase that is being used more often, which is really linked to the behaviour of a narcissist. She operates within a shell of her narcissism, and the narcissism basically makes her believe that she's the centre of a film, starring her, with other actors and actresses around her who are all there to make her look good, with a soundtrack that's playing to emphasise how wonderful she is, so that when she walks along the street, in her deluded world, each person she passes looks at her. The men think, whew, she's hot. The women think, gosh, isn't she stylish? What a fashion icon. She truly believes that she's turning the heads of those around her. That when a man happens to glance at her just because he's walked through his eye line, he's immediately thinking, I'd like to play hide the sausage with her, when in actual fact, he's probably barely acknowledged her. When a woman happens to look at her, perhaps thinking, Jesus Christ, does she own an iron? That's interpreted by this one's wife as, she's admiring me. Yes, she is that deluded. Accordingly, when she engages in these things, for example, undertaking the repugnant curtsy, she thinks, this is really funny. You're going to all be entertained by this. This is really amusing. She believes that it is a witty anecdote that she's telling. When she's told the lies about racism in a shameless way, her narcissism tells her, through the revision of history, these things were said about you, you're the victim. Make sure you tell people about this. They need to know that you're the one that's been hard done to. When she led the Veterans March, her narcissism tells her, the only reason this event is taking place is because you're here. Everybody's here to see you. You belong at the front of that line. When she broke the line at the Navy SEAL event to hug the individual in the crowd, that was acceptable because it was her being authentic, and after all, she is a hugger. When she purchases her own awards, her narcissism doesn't tell her that there's anything sad in doing so, but it is a necessity of ensuring that the world recognises that she's brilliant. And as soon as it's purchased, the fact that she has purchased it is deleted from the record, and in her world, she's been given the award to recognise her greatness. When she was flipping those burgers, she knew that every man watching was thinking, wow, I would love to bone her whilst eating a burger. She can flip burgers, what a talented cook foodie she is, and also she looks hot as hell. After all, Who on earth would behave that way with all of the lip-biting and sizzling, or at least attempting sizzling looks towards the camera? She behaves that way because in her head, she believes that she's utterly irresistible, both in terms of her burger that she's flipping and the burger that she might offer to a man should he come sniffing around her. When she sought to take the mic at the Costner event, that's because she believed that she's entitled to speak because, after all, everything she has to say is hugely interesting and everybody ought to hear from her about this. That they want to listen to what she's got to say. When she made, for instance, the coma-inducing speech at Bridgewater Hall back in September 2022, which was a speech, as I've often told you, that would make a glass eye go to sleep, she really believed that she was changing lives with what she had to say, even though it was dull as ditch water and was simply about other times that she had appeared at this particular event. She has no shame because the way that her narcissism has created her personality is such that shame has been removed. It just doesn't form part of her responses. And moreover, as I've just explained to you, her narcissism functions in a way to justify everything that she does. So if you were to say to her, "What were you doing with that curtsy? That was well out of order," she would look at you like you're mad, because in her world, it was funny, it was entertaining. Don't you get that? You must be a dimwit. If you were to say to her, "You shouldn't have been at the front of that Veterans March, that's disgusting. It's the equivalent of stolen valour," she'll look at you like you should belong in a psychiatric ward, because she's the magnificent this one's wife. Why shouldn't she be at the front? Everybody's come to see her. It simply does not compute. That is how powerful the shell of her narcissism is, that it won't allow the penetration of criticism, of trying to make her feel shame, because she simply will never ever experience it, protected by her narcissism. Thus, if you are debating somewhere or see comments below the line and people think, "Why does she not exhibit any shame for her behaviour? She is so shameless, why is this?" You can now direct them to this video. I'm H.D. Tudor. Thank you for listening.